press record. And now we are going to get started. Thank you all so much for attending our Study Abroad as a First Gen student panel. My name is Alex Joe, and I am a peer advisor at the Berkeley Study Abroad office. And today we'll be going through a short presentation about how to get started thinking about study abroad. And then you'll hear from some students who have gone abroad before, and you'll get to hear about their experiences as being first generation and EOP students going abroad. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. So first, as you're thinking about going abroad and going through that whole process, you're probably going to be starting out with the why. Why should I go study abroad? And there are lots of different reasons, and it's really a personal choice in the end. And it could be a combination of all of these. For many students, you might have a personal connection or an interest in a location that you want to explore. You could go abroad to get more professional experience. Maybe you're thinking about working abroad and want to get a taste for what that's like. Or academic, of course. So, of course, you're studying abroad, you're taking classes, you want to fulfill major, minor breadth requirements, learn a new language. And these are all things that you can do abroad, and these are goals that you can accomplish. And where can you do this? There are a lot of options. So Berkeley Study Abroad offers over 400 different programs in 40 countries. And we organize it by our 3 program providers or by an independent program. And I'll give a brief overview of each of those program providers and how we kind of think about that. But again, our programs cater to a diverse range of needs and student profiles and goals that you might have for your time abroad, ranging from immersion, language, research, internship, or just purely academic or themed programs. So, message of this being there's probably something out there for you. And as you're doing your research, learning more about programs and hearing from students who have gone abroad on programs, that'll help you kind of narrow down where you'd want to go. So now I'll just run through really quickly the different types of programs that we have just to get you started and to expose you to some of the places that you could go and the things you could do abroad. So our first big program provider is called UCEAP, and that acronym stands for University of California Education Abroad Program. And these are programs open to all UC students, and it offers our widest range of program offerings. So you can go abroad at any time during the year, fall, spring, for the whole year, or over the summer. And you could be doing anything from taking classes to doing an internship or research, language themed programs. So all of those different categories or types of programs are under this umbrella of UCEAP. And yeah, you're taking it with UC students and with local students. So for these programs, you're going to be applying usually 9 to 12 months in advance. So right now, our applications are open for fall, year, and summer programs, and they're due in the winter time. So usually between December and February. So definitely something you can get started on thinking about now if you're looking to go abroad next fall or year or during the summer. And spring applications are due in April. So you have a bit of time to think about that. And we have so many programs under UCEAP. If you go on our website, you'll see a huge list of them and be able to look through them with locations all around the world. Another program provider we have is called the Berkeley Global Internships. And these are programs that are specifically focused on giving you an internship experience as well as a couple courses. And we offer this program only over the summer. So this is what I did for my study abroad experience. I did it the summer after my freshman year, and I really liked it. It was at a time when I was starting to think about what I wanted to do with my career. And the great thing about this program is you're guaranteed an internship and you really get a personalized placement process, meaning that once you get into the program, you get to talk to an internship coordinator who lives in the city or area that you're interning in. And they work with you to help you articulate your goals, the skills that you have, what kind of experience you want for the summer. And then they do a lot of the recruiting process with you. So you don't have to worry about landing in a location that is unfamiliar, where you might not know the language and having to do recruitment on top of that. You really do get a lot of guidance in doing the recruitment and finding that internship that is a good fit for what you're looking for. So you can do this as early as the summer after your freshman year, like I did. So this is a great program if you want to go abroad right away, and if you're a freshman and you're looking for that. And more information about these programs will be updated on our website in mid-November. So with the global internships, this summer we'll be offering a virtual option as well as an in-person option. And they are a little bit different. One thing I want to note is that the application periods are a bit different. The virtual global internship application period is due on March 15th, and the in-person is due on March 1st, as well as the number of units. So for the virtual internships, that comes with 3 units of coursework. The in-person ones come with 6 units of coursework. So if you're a student who qualifies for financial aid, usually know that you would need to take 6 units of coursework to be eligible for financial aid in the summer. So something to keep in mind. And the biggest difference between these programs is that with the virtual internships, you apply to a region, and for in-person, you apply to a specific city. So as you can see, we have domestic and international locations that you can choose from. So this program, the applications are first come, first reviewed, meaning that if you apply early and if you put thought into your application, then you have a really good chance of getting into the program. And this program is designed to be non-competitive, and we want to have as many of you go abroad as possible in the location and in the program that you want to go abroad in. So that's global internships. And our last category of programs I want to share is called Berkeley Summer Abroad. And these are Berkeley courses taught by great Berkeley faculty, but just transported to a different country. So you get that experience of taking that iconic Berkeley class, getting close to a cohort of Berkeley students, but you do it in a really immersive and interactive way that takes you outside the classroom and into the place that you are living and studying in. This is also a program only over the summer. It's 4 to 6 weeks, so a little bit shorter than the Global Internships program. And the application period is again in February to March. And this is first come, first reviewed as well. So again, we want to have as many of you go abroad as possible. We want to make the application process as frictionless as possible. And we also have advising to help you out with the applications to make sure that you can get those applications in early so you can get into the program. So the details for this program will also be updated in mid to late November, so hopefully in a couple of weeks now. But what we know for now, these are the anticipated programs that we're going to be offering for this summer, and all of them will be in person. So a couple of these we have had in the past. There are 2 new ones that we are adding for this summer. The program in Greece about Mediterranean nutrition and food, and the program in Dublin about sports and identity in Ireland. So really excited about those. And say as you're doing your research, you look through the different programs and you don't find a program that exactly fits your needs, that's okay. You can also have the option of going abroad on an independent program. So if you find another university or study abroad program that Berkeley does not have a connection with, you can go through our independent study abroad guide on our website, do just a little bit of paperwork, and then see if it's possible for you to go abroad on that program as well. So we want to make sure that you go on a program that is the best fit for you. It might be with us, it might be with an independent program. And we have all the processes and advising in place to help you achieve your goals, no matter what program it is on. So that was a really quick run through of the different program types that we have. And with the study abroad process, you definitely take the time to sit down, comb through the different program types, go to advising, and talk about all of this in detail. But that was just an introduction. And in general, when thinking about study abroad, here are a couple notes. Just know that eligibility is based on your class level, your GPA, and certain programs have a language requirement. As I've been mentioning, most programs are not competitive for study abroad. There are a couple programs that are impacted, meaning that we usually just have more students apply to the program than we can give spots for. And in that case, we encourage you to talk to an advisor to explore backup options and just to talk about how to make your application strong for that particular program. And again, the UCEAP application process is a little bit different from the application process for global internships and summer abroad. And all of this is on the website. and on these slides. And I also wanted to talk a bit about financial aid and scholarships because that is a really important part of planning your study abroad. So financial aid travels with you if you go abroad on a Berkeley or UC EAP program, but not on an independent program. So to be eligible for aid, it's very similar to how you'd be eligible here at Berkeley. You have to complete your FAFSA or California Dream Act, and you must also be taking a full course load while you are abroad. And program costs and the cost of living differ from program to program. So as you're doing your research, you'll see that each program has a budget. And some programs are more affordable than others. For example, I went abroad in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong has a lower cost of living than Berkeley and San Francisco. So I found that program to be more affordable for me. And you may find programs that are like that for you as well. And financial aid, since it does travel over with you, it was a really big part of my decision. And if you want to get kind of a glimpse into what kind of financial aid you'd be getting abroad, you can complete the financial aid estimate form on our website, and you'll get an estimate for the package that you'd be getting for a certain program. So all that goes into your planning for financing your experience abroad. And once you do that, get an idea of your financial aid, and as you're thinking about your funding options, also consider scholarships. I've listed a couple here, and there are tons more on our website and on the UCEAP website. One in particular that is really cool is the Gilman Scholarship. And this is a nationwide scholarship open to US citizens who are receiving the Pell Grant. And the awards are up to $5,000 for the regular Gilman Scholarship and up to $8,000 if you are also studying a critical language. Super great opportunity. And Berkeley has a great track record with the Gilman too. We have been a top producer of Gilman scholars for a couple years, and we host workshops and have sessions where you could talk about your essays for the application. So highly recommend checking out both financial aid and scholarships. And just to kind of summarize all of this, if you're just starting your study abroad journey, here are a couple of things that you could start thinking about. First is to go onto our website, research different programs, and choose the program that is the best fit for you. So reading through all of the information on the website about the programs, thinking about where you want to go abroad and where you want to live and experience this. At the same time, also think about the term that you want to go abroad, whether it's good to go for a summer, for a semester, this year, next year. And planning ahead is really key because, as you saw, the UCEAP applications can be due a year in advance. Summer applications usually are due the same school year, so not as far in advance, but still something to plan for. Then once you have a program and you know when you want to go abroad, think about your academics. Maybe that's meeting with an advisor, maybe that's planning out the rest of your time at Cal while considering study abroad, and just thinking about how your academics are going to fit into it. And you can also review the courses available for your study abroad programs to see if you can fulfill any major, minor, or breadth requirements while you're abroad. Throughout this whole process, we encourage you to come to peer advising and talk through your thought process or any questions you might have. We are here at any step of the process. So you can show up to peer advising and say, I have no idea where I want to go abroad. I just want to go abroad, and we'll be happy to help you there. Or you can come to us and say, I know exactly where I want to go. My application is ready. I'm almost ready to hit submit. I just want to go through with someone one more time. And we'll be there to help you at that point of the process as well. And of course, when you're ready, you can apply for the program. And if you put in a well thought application, you've gone to peer advising, done your research, then hopefully we'll be seeing you going abroad soon. So that is our short presentation introduction to what it's like to plan for study abroad. And now I'm going to move on to the really exciting part, which is hearing from students who have actually gone abroad. So we'll start by introducing our panelists, and then we'll run through some questions with them. First, I'll introduce myself. My name is Alex Joe. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a senior studying business administration with a concentration in global management. So I've gone abroad twice, very thankfully. I've gone abroad with the Global Edge program in London in fall of 2018. and with the Global Internships Program in Hong Kong in summer 2019, and had a great time with both experiences. And they were very different experiences, and grateful for both. And I also identify as a first generation college student and an EOP student. And just a fun little icebreaker questions for our panelists. My favorite study spot abroad is this picture here on the right. It's a cafe called Waffling Beans in Hong Kong. And it was really close to where I was staying, and it was right by the water. So you could just step outside and like see the water. And they were known for having these really nice like dessert and breakfast waffles and their lattes. So it was a great place to study. Spent a lot of time there.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Devin. I also use a she, her pronouns. I'm actually a junior, so I got to study abroad right before COVID hit, which I'm really grateful for. So my major, I'm currently majoring in social welfare, and I'm hoping to get a Spanish literature minor. And I actually also did Global Edge in the fall of 2019, and so that was my very first experience in another country in that way, and I just never thought I'd do study abroad, especially my freshman year. So I still can't believe I did it, but I'm very grateful that I had that opportunity. And just like Alex, I also, one of my favorite study spots abroad was a coffee shop called Pret. I know it was really popular over there, but I don't know. They had like the best sandwiches, and it was like you would see people from everywhere there. But yeah, I think for me, there was just so many things that I experienced that I never thought I would as a first gen student. And I thought that I wouldn't be able to afford studying abroad. So I'm excited to talk about that later on today. So nice meeting you.
Hi everyone, I am Hasmin. I'm also a peer advisor and I use the she, her pronouns. I'm a senior and then I'm majoring in global studies and minoring in public policy. And I've actually studied abroad 3 times. The first time it was the summer right after my freshman year with the UCAP Global Health in Mexico. And then I studied abroad the spring semester of my sophomore year at the University of Bordeaux, even though it was impacted by COVID and it was kind of like cut short, but still an amazing experience. And this past summer, I did a virtual international internship, which was very helpful. And also one of my favorite spots to study was a cafe called Verdenero in Bordeaux. For me, it became one of my favorite spots to study because the staff, he was also from Mexico. So within like being in France, I felt like going to this cafe, I felt like a little bit like back home. So I felt really comfortable and it was kind of like my safe and my comfort space. So it was mainly the staff that made it my favorite spot, but also they had like amazing like matcha latte and amazing like croissants. So it was great. So yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Maddie. I'm also a peer advisor at the Berkeley Study Abroad office. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am a senior majoring in political economy and minoring in Jewish studies. Like Hasmin, I also studied abroad 3 times, but I only have the 2 most recent ones listed here. First and foremost, I went to Israel on a study abroad program in high school during my senior year. And then coming to Cal, I went on the Global Edge program in London in fall 2018 with Alex, and then also completed a Berkeley Global internship in Sydney in the summer of 2019. My favorite study spot abroad has to be one specific Starbucks on Tottenham Court Road in London. I loved studying there because there was lots of space to, work and, lots of tables, and also it had great views. It wasn't just located on Tottenham Court Road, but also had like views of Oxford Street. And it was just so pretty, and like just working there, I got to both get my schoolwork done, but also like really see and, integrate myself like where I was just like purely by like the views I had. So absolutely loved it there. I don't identify as a first gen student, but I do identify as EOP.
Thank you all for your introductions and for sharing your favorite study spots abroad. And now we're going to get started with some of our questions. So the first question I have for our panelists is, how did you make the decision to go abroad? Did being a first generation student impact your decision-making process? And we'll start with Devin.
Yeah, so for me, I think in doing the Global Edge program, it was actually an option. So for my freshman year, I could either start like the traditional route of going into Berkeley and just taking classes on campus, or do study abroad. And I had done another program in high school called Global Glimpse, which is where you go to a third world country and you do community service and you teach English. And I got go to the Dominican Republic, and I think after that I got the travel bug. So I think I just in my head I thought, I was scared of going into college, especially a school like Berkeley. I felt really intimidated, so I said I might as well go all in and just do something like that. And especially in a place like London, I just never thought I'd have the opportunity to travel there. So for me, it was kind of like stepping out of my comfort zone and seeing what I could do there. But I think as being the first one going to college in my family, it was really difficult. I was intimidated. I didn't know how to plan that out. Financially, I didn't know if I would be able to afford it. So as a first time person going to college, I did have to ask the program coordinators and speak to financial aid officers, and that helped lessen my worries a lot because I know it's something I couldn't talk with my family about. But yeah, after going through all that, I decided it was right for me, and it did scare me a little bit, but that's why I knew like it was the right thing to do. Like I know I would grow from it. So yeah, that's eventually how I ended up going to London.
Thank you. And Hasmin, what about you?
Yeah, so how I decided to make a decision to go abroad, it was because of different reasons. For me, it has always been my dream to travel and to explore different cultures ever since I immigrated to the US. So I immigrated to the US when I was 12, so I'm also a first generation and UP student. So I knew that coming to the university, I've had heard stories about students that have gone abroad before. So I knew what I wanted to get out of it. So I was like, okay, like there are programs in Mexico and I want to explore a little bit more about my culture. So that's how I decided to go abroad in Mexico. Then for France, I was like, okay, like I want to learn French and I want to practice my French. And that's how I decided to go abroad to France. And then for my last study abroad, I was like, okay, like now I'm a junior, I want to get like some practical experience. And that's how I decided to do the virtual internship. So for each program, I kind of like had a specific idea of what I wanted to get out of it. But also being a first generation college student really impacted my decision making process because again, as Devin, I was super scared of like applying abroad because I thought it was going to be really complicated, that I thought it was going to be real expensive. But later I learned that the financial aid travels with me and that actually I could apply for scholarships. So I was like, okay, like this is one of the few times and few opportunities I'm going to have to study abroad because as a first generation college student, it's really hard to go abroad outside of like these resources. So yeah, after learning that it wasn't like a hard process and that actually I could get financial aid, I was like, okay, like this is my time to go abroad. So yeah.
Totally. Really quickly for myself, I wanted to go abroad just in general, entering college, and then that opportunity for Global Edge came up for me. And that was great because they really made the process easy. They had so many resources. Definitely what Hasmin says, I echo that going to travel and going abroad is so much harder to do without the structure, without the resources that Berkeley can provide. So I wanted to take advantage of that. A concern that I had was neither of my parents were able to graduate college, and their wish for me was like, you can do whatever you want in college, just make sure that you graduate and make sure that you graduate in 4 years. So timing was a big thing for me. So I had like as a freshman sat down and kind of planned out what classes am I going to take? Am I going to do this major? What if I want to pick up a minor? Will I have time to do everything? So sitting down and making that plan before I went abroad and then coming back and also revising that plan and having the flexibility to add other things to my journey at Cal was really helpful and gave me a lot of peace of mind. All right. So the next question is, what was your day-to-day like abroad? And this time we'll start with Maddie.
Yeah, for sure. So my day-to-day life abroad, definitely changed like based on the program that I was on. So for Global Edge, I would get up, make myself some breakfast, and then I'd hop on one of the, famous double-decker buses in London. Actually, there were two of them. There was like a transfer in the middle that everyone had to do from where I was living, and get to class, have classes up until like the early afternoon. And sometimes I would go study in that Starbucks or other cafes, such as Pret in London. And then if I had time, finding something social to do, such as maybe going to a pub or going sightseeing and exploring. And then eventually, coming back home and winding down for the night. For my global internships program, it was a little bit different because I had the internship like work schedule that I had to integrate into my day. And so I'd get up, take the train from the nearest train station into central Sydney. And then I would be at work from, probably 9 a.m. until around 3 p.m. like on most days. And, just getting lots of, internship skills and experiences, also with like a lunch break included. And then afterward, kind of similar situation where I'd go out and sightsee or explore like a local restaurant hub or a bar or something, and just kind of getting to know my fellow interns and like getting that social experience. And so I found a lot of similarities between the two places, but also differences just based on the structure of the program itself.
Yeah, and for me, it was very similar in terms of being in London. I just remember the commute to the actual center where the classes were was a bit long on the tube, so it was I think around 40-ish minutes. And at first it did seem like a drag, but I think you get used to it, and then with the time, I remember I started feeling like a Londoner, and it was really great to feel that sense of like having a home or having a community in London, but yeah, I just remember my classes were very different from how they look now in Berkeley. I had one class every day and it was a 3-hour class, like with a break in between. But then that gave me the rest of the day to just kind of, do it whatever I wanted in the city. So I would like explore, go to coffee shops, just stay home. But yeah, and I really was able to immerse myself in more of the culture because of the coursework. So I had classes such as like the London Theater, or we would travel to the museum. So that made it a lot more special being able to do that, almost daily. So yeah, it was just something that I never had imagined for myself over there.
Awesome. And speaking of classes, what classes did you take and how did you fit them into your academic plans at Cal? And we'll start again with Maddie this time.
Yeah, for sure. So kind of like the last question, it was based on the nature of the program itself. And so for Global Edge London, I, really utilized the fact that I could take my breath courses and fulfill my, breath requirements abroad. And so I took everything from introductory political science to Math 1A, which is univariable calculus, and I took a like European history course, a global studies, and I'm trying to recall the fourth course. It's not coming to mind, but basically I took a variety of courses in London that allowed me to fulfill a wide variety of breadth requirements, and even like the quantitative analysis requirement for Cal. And being able to do that my first semester freshman year really allowed me to explore other courses once I actually got to Cal and figure out what I wanted to major in, and other electives I could take that didn't necessarily have to do with my major or my minor. And so I found that was a really good start for my college experience. And then for Sydney, there was an on-site course at the University of Sydney, which is like pretty typical of global internships programs, where you would have an on-site course at the host university. And then I also had an online course that I took with other Berkeley Global Internships participants, regardless of location. With the in-person class, we got to learn a lot more about like Australian history and culture, and we even got to go on a few field trips as well, especially to like the Blue Mountains and such. And we got to go camping there. And since the seasons are reversed in Australia, it was like so cold, winter time, snowing when we were out there in July, camping, and which is something I would never do like otherwise. And so it was a great experience. I absolutely loved it. And then also the online course that I took was centered on us, really integrating ourselves into our surroundings and kind of summing up what we learned in our internships. And so that was a great way for me to reflect upon like, okay, what skills am I learning? What experiences am I having? And how can I like apply that towards a future internship or job or interview?
Thank you for sharing. And what about you, Hasmin?
Yeah, so the classes that I took when I was in Mexico for the global health in Mexico, they were more like public health courses, and I didn't need them. I just wanted to take them just for fun and because I wanted to learn more about the public health um, that is in place in Mexico. So yeah, and then also with my study abroad, I completed the international breadth requirement. But the when I was at the University of Puerto, I took several courses, such as like French courses and some political science courses, like war studies, African actors in a political role, and international law and immigration. And I used the last one, the international law and immigration, for my major concentration requirement. Um, so yeah, those are kind of like the main courses that I took when I was abroad.
Nice. All right, for this next question, we can all go around and answer this. So this question is, what challenges did you face abroad and how did you overcome them? And we'll stick with Hasmin and then anyone can pop in after that.
So when I was in France, you're gonna talk about like France, because that's when I faced like the most challenges, especially when it came to like culture shock, language barrier, and how different the educational system is in France and some finances. So first of all, I overcame all of this like by being open-minded and always like asking questions to my program advisors, my host family, and my friends, my UC friends. And I had to like lose the fear of practicing my French. I would actively participate in the French courses that I was taking at the host university. I would practice with my other UC peers since I felt more comfortable with them. And also when I had to order something either at the store or restaurant, I would try to practice my French. And little by little, I was gaining some confidence. And again, when it came to navigating campus, I would always ask my program advisors for help, and they would always help me with any questions that I had. And then with time, I kind of like got used to the French educational system, and also with finances. Even before going abroad, I met up with a financial aid advisor, and I had because I'm a first generation, and because I know like for many of us, money is a big concern. I kind of like had an idea of like, okay, I'm gonna have an emergency fund and I'm gonna save this much just in case of an emergency, because I don't want to be stressing out about money when I'm abroad or stressing out my family, especially. So that's what I had. And I recommend doing like an emergency fund, specially designated for studying abroad, and just kind of like creating a budget plan. Like this is how much I have for my study abroad, and this is how much I want to spend on traveling or just like eating out. So yeah, those were some of the challenges that I faced.
For me, some of the challenges that I faced abroad had to do with kind of like the time change and coordinating with people back home. I did definitely experience this on my like Berkeley programs, but more so also with my Israel program in high school because I was applying to college at the time, and so having to coordinate with like my recommenders for applications and stuff across a 10-hour time period, like 10-hour time difference was kind of difficult. And then I kind of learned through my international experiences how to not only like figure out, okay, what time here correlates with, what time back home, but also like figuring out like a work schedule that, would allow me to maximize my time, that I know that people back home would be free to talk, whether it be friends or family or, like professors that like would, help me out on things like applications. And then also I found that I needed to learn how to budget, especially like abroad, and find like the best deals and stuff at grocery stores or like restaurants that were economically sound. And kind of just figuring out like, okay, how can I get everything I need without breaking the bank and without feeling like I spend too much. And so with especially with different locations, there are different costs of living. And so you definitely have to take into consideration that some products in other places might not be as cheap or as expensive as here. And so just kind of balancing that out as well, you know, in addition to keeping a budget overall.
Yeah, and kind of echoing from what they've said before, I think I also had, for me, it was more of, I feel like I didn't prepare enough about budgeting before I went to London. And so when I was there, I just remember this was the first time when I was really on my own and I had to, you know, handle my own finances. And really budget it on my own. So I just remember while I was there, I was worried that um, I would spend either too much money or I would have to. I really didn't want to burden my family with asking them, especially my mom. You know, like I wanted to be able to handle this all on my own. So I didn't want to have to reach out for help just because I know she works a lot and, you know, this was something I was doing for myself. So I didn't want that affecting her. But I think with that, just like that concern about money, was the biggest challenge for me. But luckily, I, you know, little by little, I started to budget with like groceries and just seeing what I really needed and maybe what I didn't need. But yeah, I think that was just something I would definitely give as advice is before going, try to plan out your finances and budgeting. And I know they have really good apps for it too, which I wish I would have known before, but it can definitely save you a lot of like worry and stress about that.
Kind of along the same vein, a challenging period for me abroad was that first week. And that first week, you're landing in a new country, you're with a bunch of other Berkeley students. You don't know how to get on the trains or the buses. You don't know what the names of the grocery stores are there. There's a lot that you're adjusting to. And I think kind of in my head, I was kind of beating myself down like, oh, why am I going out for lunch every single day? Like, why am I so exhausted? And it's like, well, because you're adjusting to a totally new place, to a totally new time zone. So one thing that I wish I would have done is kind of prepare myself mentally and also plan out my finances to know that during that first week, you might be spending a little bit more money. You might need to go out to eat at a restaurant instead of going grocery shopping. And like, even if you're going grocery shopping, you're restocking like your pantry from zero, you know? So that first week or first month period may be a little bit more spending heavy and maybe a little bit more clunky. And then once you get to week 2 or week 3, that's when you're really finding your rhythm. And so just allowing yourself to have that period of adjustment. We're all Berkeley students. We all want to like do everything like that and just be ready to go on day one. But it does take some time. So making sure that you allow yourself the time to do that and not feel guilty about it. Cool. So another question I have for everyone is who made up your support system before, during, and after your study abroad experience? And we can go in reverse order this time. So I'll go ahead and start. For me, before I went abroad on both programs, I tried to reach out to people who had gone abroad on that program, the same program, or who had gone to that location before. So going to panels like this, I found some people who had been to Hong Kong before and reached out to them. And with Global Edge, I also got to speak with students who had gone on that program before. Peer advising, all of the peer advisors have been abroad, so they have that experience. So just chatting with them about exactly like these questions and their personal experiences really helped me prepare for kind of the little things. And then during my abroad program, I also had friends, of course, with the people on the program with me, but I also really tried to make local friends because they know the area better. And also it's nice to get to know new people and kind of find different perspectives. So they were a really great support system. And they were also really interested in learning about me and what it was like to go to school in the US and to go to school in Berkeley. So it was a really cool relationship that we built. And I still keep in touch with those people today, years after, which is really cool. And after my study abroad experience, because when you come back from study abroad, that's an adjustment too. You know, you're coming back home and sometimes things don't feel completely familiar or it takes a little bit of time to adjust back to your way of doing things. And there, like having my family there was really nice. Having my friends there, and of course, they were all very excited to hear about like what was it like being abroad and like what'd you do, and it sounded like so much fun. So just keeping those people close, and also like being strong for yourself and doing what you need to do to process all of that and to be able to live and enjoy all the moments of going abroad. Oh, I think maybe Devin's internet connection went out, but we can go to Maddie for now.
Yeah, for sure. So my support system was pretty consistent throughout all of my programs. I definitely saw like my family and friends as a support system, not just preparing me for my program, but also, being there when I needed to call home or, just have a familiar face to talk to. Um, Another support system that I had was definitely like the staff in like all of these places. And it's more of like on the logistical side. Like if I, wanted advice or needed or had questions about my living situation or, how the different transportation systems worked, the staff like on those programs in those locations were able to help, provide some guidance on like, okay, here's the best way to get around and like maybe areas to avoid at certain times of the day. And like maybe like here are the best grocery stores to go to or check out this restaurant if you want something, trendy, and then, go to this touristy place. And so they've been pretty consistent, but I would definitely say, friends, family, and then also the staff that worked in like those locations on those different programs.
Yeah, and on a similar note for me, it was also my consistent support throughout the program. It was my family in terms of like emotional support or just whenever I felt like homesick, I had like I could call them. Since I'm the first one in my family to go to since I was the first one in my family to go abroad, they couldn't really help me with the process of studying abroad, but they were there for emotional support. In terms of like the support before going abroad, it was a peer advisors. I remember just going into the office and being like, hey, so how did I apply? Like what programs are available? To just like very general questions. And then from there, it was also my friends here at Berkeley that had previously studied abroad. And also my UCAP advisors before going abroad. I would always go with my UCEAP advisor and be like, okay, so how did I prepare? Or just like any questions about the program before going abroad. And during my study abroad experience, it was mainly similar to Maddie. It was the staff members who were there at the moment, just with any logistic questions about like school or just like the city itself, I would go to them. And then with time, it was also the friends that I made while being abroad. They became my support system. And then after, it was just also my friends and my family, keeping in touch with them and just trying to reflect and process my study abroad experience.
So glad to hear that we all had great support systems. And for our last question, before we move on to pulling questions from our audience, is there anything else that you would like to share about your experience as a first generation student and or EOP student going abroad? Maddie, how about we start with you?
Yeah, for sure. So as an EOP identifying student, I really realized that going abroad, there are a lot of resources available to you, not just like locally if you can find like discounted things, but also as a student, at the host university, whether it be like the UC Center or if you're actually enrolled at the host university, either London, Sydney, or whatever location you go to. There are resources, things you can get into, things that you get discounts for, such as like on the Global Edge program. I know they gave us a free like zone 1 and zone 2 underground pass, and then like everything beyond zone 2, like we would have to pay for. But that was still pretty nice because everything that like every place I did travel to in London was pretty much within zones 1 and 2, and so that definitely took like a great, it was a good relief like on the costs that I had to pay for like my time abroad. And then also, of course, having the financial aid apply to the program was very helpful because then I was able to direct personal costs towards things like, grocery shopping, maybe booking like a trip or two during my program, and really integrating myself into where I was that way without needing to worry about like housing costs or like program fees. And so there are definitely lots of opportunities as, a first gen student, as an ELP student, and lots of things are available to you as a student.
Hasmin, what about you?
Yeah, so I guess like what I would like to say for this question is that I know it might be scary and overwhelming to think about going abroad, especially as a first generation student. But however, like don't let the fear stop you from going abroad because it is an amazing opportunity. And you grow as a person, it helps you academically and professionally, and you create like a great international network. And you create like unforgettable like memories and strong friendships. Like for example, me, I'm probably gonna meet up with my friends that I made when I was abroad in France. We're planning a meetup trip to hopefully like see each other again. And then again, like you will never be alone. You will always have the support from the program advisors, from your friends and your family. So even if you feel like you're missing home or you don't know something, like you have a support, you're never alone. And if you have any doubts or questions, don't be afraid to ask, because especially as a first generation student, I feel like we're always scared to, it's something new. So we feel scared, but like don't let that stop you and always ask questions. Like that's the best way to go around. So yeah.
Yeah, I would also say, like, even if your parents, your family, or your friends, or the people around you haven't had the same experiences or haven't been able to go abroad and, go through the same things that you have, still reach out to them and still talk to them because they want to know what's going on with you. And in some funny ways, the people closest to you always know what the right thing to say is when you need it. So not being afraid to reach out to people for support, even if you don't have the exact same experiences, there's still a lot of value in connecting with them. And Devin, any advice or last words on this question?
Yeah, I think this is something I wish I would have been able to ask someone else. And I think that was one thing I would also put into the advice is like kind of as something that I wish someone would have told me was that it's okay to feel that like intimidation, right? It's okay to ask questions because I think and I was a freshman too, so I didn't really know what to expect as a Berkeley student and then just studying abroad, but I do wish that I would have asked more questions and really because I think a lot of people are so willing to help you and they're like waiting to give you advice, but it just comes with you asking first. But in terms of studying abroad, um, kind of like Hasmin was saying, it can be very intimidating and I remember I had a moment where I just thought, like, what did I get myself into? I really can't do this. Just because I was scared, but more nervous than anything, right? I was excited, but I just felt super nervous, like thinking this is something that I'm gonna do on my own. And so with that, I'd want to say that I think those are the best experiences, right? When you have that sort of that that nervousness, but it's just like it'll turn into something really valuable. And just the last thing I would say is like you don't have to have it all figured out. And I remember when I was studying abroad, um, in terms of planning, I remember thinking, kind of like Alex was saying earlier, like I wanted to have everything figured out. I wanted to graduate on time, but I was scared that this might hold me back a little or it just wouldn't be worth it. But with that, just going into this experience, you really don't have to have things figured out. And if this is something you really want to do, but makes you nervous, I think that's the best opportunity to do it. I think with that, just having no regrets when you go into it and be willing to ask for help, because I think your experience will be very valuable, but you also have to put yourself out there. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Totally. Planning it out, but also having an open attitude are key to really enjoying your study abroad experience. Thank you guys for answering these questions. I really appreciate it. And at this point, are there any questions from the audience for our last couple minutes? Anything you guys want to know from our panelists? Burning questions about studying abroad? All right, well, if not, that's totally fine. I hope that you learned a thing or two from listening to our panelists speak about their experiences. And I just wanted to show this last slide after our presentation. If you want to know more about study abroad, feel free to go onto our website and explore the programs that we have. We also have a student stories tab where you can read more about different students' experiences abroad on different programs. And there's a bunch of them there if you want to get more of experiences like this and hearing from past students who have gone abroad. Also, sign up for an advising appointment for peer advising by going to this link here, also on our website. But again, at any point of the process, whether you're just starting or ready to hit submit, or even getting ready to go abroad and asking like, what am I going to pack? Or how should I budget? And questions like that, we'd be happy to help you for peer advising or for portfolio advising for your more specific questions. And we also have some more fun programming coming up next week for International Education Week. It's kind of a nationwide celebration of international education. And at Berkeley, we're going to be having a film screening in collaboration with ASUC Superb. We're having an arts night where you'll get to do like arts and crafts from different areas abroad, and other fun activities, panels, info sessions like this on Zoom. So a ton of fun stuff going on next week. And we also put some of these links into the chat so you can check them out, but I'll leave this up for now as well. But otherwise, thank you all again so much for attending. Thank you to our panelists for your thoughtful responses and for sharing your stories and advice. And have a great rest of your day, everyone.